Former Vice President Joe Biden leads the Democratic field in the national race with 30% support, leading the field by 8 points.
Boy, it's true. You know, if you look at Vice President Biden, he's taken a bunch of hits. He's run a, kind of lackluster campaign, but he still is in the lead. And he still is the person that is both in first place in the polls and is the most likely person to be people's second choice. He has the two things you want in the Democratic primary, which is older voters and African-American voters are both solidifying with him. And so he continues to lead in the national polls.
Despite fat-shaming potential voters.
Look, fat, look, here's the deal. And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take a nice push-ups. Number two.
And then age-shaming them.
You think I thought you'd stand up and vote for me? You're too old to vote for me. All right, here we go.
He's also ahead in the polls despite phoning in his entire vice presidency, which he was caught on a hot mic, openly admitting and even laughing about.
How you doing, Eric? Vice President. Good. All right. It's easy being vice president. It's like being a grandfather. Yeah, that's it.
All right, so that's how seriously he took his first stint in the White House. But this time's going to be different. The 83-year-old veteran Marine whom Biden bullied not once, not twice, but 3 times that night summed it up perfectly immediately following the rally. Or the small get-together, I guess you'd call this.
He's been in the Congress all his life, and all of these problems like high drug prices and all of that. Where in the hell has he been for the last 50 years? And he's going to change it all now?
Now think about that for a second. In 40 years, what has he done? Well, he wrote the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, aka the largest crime bill in the history of our country, the bill that people cite when blaming Bill Clinton for starting the police state in the 90s that has wreaked havoc on our underprivileged neighborhoods. Joe Biden is the one who wrote it. He also penned the bill which the Patriot Act was based on in 1995. So in 40 years as a politician, he turned the U.S. into a police state and then took away everyone's privacy. Yeah, I'll say. And then, when he reached the second highest office in the land, did he try and fix any of these things or any of the other problems in this country? Nope. He was too busy using it to enrich his entire family.
Let's back up a little, set the stage here. James Biden is the younger brother of Joe Biden, known as a businessman. Not really, there's no real sort of connections and there's no real paper trail other than I think he tried to start a hedge fund. He did a few other things. What he did in 2010 is land at a construction company with very little specific experience in construction at a place called Hill International. And not long after that, Hill International got their hands on a fairly big deal worth $1.5 billion, which the company is at least telling analysts that they're going to cash in on that very soon, possibly before the end of the year. It's all contingent on financing from the Iraqi government. What was interesting and what analysts believe is that the ties to the Obama administration and to the Iraqi government helped secure this deal. Now, what's really interesting about this is that James Biden, again, no construction development. They're going to build homes in Iraq, affordable housing, 100,000 of them, maybe as much as 500,000 if this goes through. No discernible experience in that field. And also, if this does go through, he stands to make a lot of money. Why is that? He's part of a partnership that brought that deal to Hill. And basically, if the $1.5 billion comes through, half of it goes to Hill, half of it goes to that partnership. He's part of that partnership. He and his colleagues, minus expenses, right? They walk away with something like $700 million. Now, obviously, that's minus expenses. And this deal is not a done deal yet. But like I said, company officials say it is close to being done, that they expect to get the funding from the Iraqi government soon. And if that happens, James Biden is going to be a very rich man. This development is part of a bigger development by a South Korean firm, Track Development. Okay. What ties does James Biden have to the South Korean government? What we do know is that he showed up at a state dinner that the Obamas put on for the South Korean president not long after the deal. This is a dinner that, dignitaries were at. The vice president was there, obviously. Also, the Treasury Secretary was there. Tim Geithner, Valerie Jarrett was there. The president of South Korea. And and James Biden. So it's kind of an interesting connection. He does have influence with the South Koreans. He obviously met senior members of the South Korean government. And here's the other thing. If you look at the chronology on how Hill got this deal, they create this subsidiary to do housing. They hire a bunch of guys for that subsidiary, including Biden. Bingo, 6 months later, they get the deal. It is really interesting.
All right, so that's back in 2011, helped his brother get a $1.5 billion contract from a South Korean real estate developer to build housing in Iraq. After that, on November 30th, 2013, Vice President Biden then embarked on a week-long trip to China, Japan, and South Korea. In China, Biden met with the newly elected President Xi to strengthen diplomatic relations. 2 weeks later, in December of 2013, Hunter Biden's private equity firm Rosemont Seneca Partners inks a $1 billion private equity deal with the Chinese government.
How seriously are you taking the impeachment talk?
Not at all seriously. We had a perfect phone call with the president of Ukraine. Everybody knows it. It's just a Democrat witch hunt. Here we go again. They failed with Russia. They failed with recession. They failed with everything. And now they're bringing this up. The one who's got the problem is Biden. As you look at what Biden did what they would like to have me do, except for one problem. I didn't do it. What Biden did is a disgrace.
Now, is Trump talking about the $1 billion from China to Hunter or the $1.5 billion from Iraq to his brother, James Biden? Actually, neither. For it seems that Hunter had yet another shady dealing in Ukraine. It all started in March 2014 when Mykola Zlochevsky, the former Ecology and Natural Resources Minister for the Ukraine government, was reported to UK authorities on suspicion of money laundering after his company Burisma Holdings tried to move $23 million to Cyprus from their British bank account. Well, wouldn't you know it, immediately following these allegations in May of 2014, Hunter Biden was given a spot as an independent director of the Ukrainian gas firm to the tune of over $50,000 a month, despite having zero prior experience in the energy sector. That's a pretty good gig. And then, fortunately for Mykola Zlochevsky, Vice President Biden got Ukraine's president to fire Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor on the case, by threatening to withhold money. March 29th, 2016, Shokin is fired. 2 days later, March 31st, here's Biden and Poroshenko celebrating their $335 million in aid money and their $1 billion loan. But this isn't just speculation. Biden, for whatever reason, openly admits his quid pro quo.
It just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Earlier this year, President Trump asked if Ukraine's new president would look into this. And now they're trying to impeach him for it. Wow. Good thing he never mentioned Iraq or China. Holy crap. This is what they would like to impeach a sitting president for mentioning someone else's quid pro quo. The president with the lowest unemployment numbers in the history of the United States. The president who passed prison reform.
In December, President Trump signed the First Step Act. It eased mandatory minimum drug sentences and led to Charles's release from prison again. How do you feel about President Trump?
I'm very honored and grateful that he signed the First Step Act. So I have nothing but respect and thankfulness.
The president who defeated ISIS and removed us from Syria. The president with an economy so good, NBC, of all places, was forced to cover it.
There's a fellow by the name of Michael Semblis. I don't know if you know him, but he is the chairman of market and investment strategy at JP Morgan. He came up with a list of what the cable companies, cable, CNN, MSN, what do they cover? The number 16th is positive economic news. All the rest of them are negative. So you know what's going on here, Joe. People don't want to say good things. And this is the best number I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I said this earlier, can it last forever, Jim? How can it last forever? Unless it's a participation rate. And
I think it has to go up, Joe, because when we win the trade war, which we're going to win now because we have the better numbers, then they're going to have to put jobs here. That's what they're going to have to do. We're not even talking about that yet. In the end, the Chinese are going to have to put jobs here because this thing is the president can walk away from the table with this number.
You are so anti-normal, knee-jerk thinking of the MSM. So we could actually have more jobs coming back if we win the trade war. No, you won't see that written or said anywhere.
Well, sometimes the truth sets people free.
Yeah, that's a beautiful...
Look, Joe, you and I both know. These are 50 years, okay? Now, I'm 64. There's beating. I didn't know about things were in 13 when I was 13 and 14, other than the war. But these are. I'm not going to say it. You can't contradict that these are the best numbers of our lives.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, we had guns and butter when we were doing these things 50 years ago, and that followed with inflation and recession. I don't see inflation. I don't see recession. 50 years ago, that number was a curse. Now it's a blessing. And you know something, Joe? It doesn't matter whether you hate them or like them. These are real numbers.
This is what Washington has been trying to impeach since the moment he was elected. But now Joe Biden's going to come in and fix things. And he's on his no malarkey tour, which would probably be more suitable name if this were, 1950. But all kidding aside, he actually does have some really solid thought out policies.
By the way, in prison, the determination should be that your sexual identity is defined by what you say it is, not what, in fact, the prison says it is. And in that case, you should be entitled also to OGBYN. Anyway, you didn't ask that question, but you're not likely to either, I guess.
It's a moving war story that Joe Biden has told before.
This guy climbed down a ravine, carried this guy up on his back under fire.
That he was in Afghanistan as vice president when he was asked to pin a silver star on a heroic Navy captain.
I said, sir, I don't want the damn thing. Do not pin it on me, sir. Please, sir. Do not do that. He died. He died.
But according to the Washington Post, almost every detail of that story he told Friday appears to be incorrect. Biden got the time period, the location, the heroic act, the type of medal, the military branch, and the rank of the recipient wrong, as well as his own role in the ceremony.
And this is God's truth. My word is a Biden. We choose truth over facts. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
So poor kids are just as smart as white kids. Well, that would make a lot of sense, being that there are 18 million white people living under the poverty line, making them by far the largest demographic of poor in this country.
I believe in the Second Amendment, but nobody says you can have a magazine with 100 clips in it.
Why should voters give you another chance?
Because the guy's done before. I'm the only one up here who's ever beat the NRA. Only one ever beat the NRA nationally.
All right, believe it or not, it only got worse from there. It was not a good night for Biden. Here's more tape.
The option I'm proposing is a Medicare for all, Medicare for choice. The president my friend from Vermont, as a young congressman, as a young councilman, play the radio, make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone, make sure the kids hear words. I'm the vice president of the United States.
Wow, this guy seems really trustworthy. We should definitely let him run the free world. And he's totally not a loose cannon.
And everybody's looked at it and said there's nothing there. Ask the right question. You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack. The press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school I could take him behind the gym. That's what I wish. We were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that. No one has heard that.
They're still debating.
This is nothing new. Joe Biden has a long-standing history of losing his temper with people and lying.
I have one real quick question. What law school did you attend, and where did you place in that class? And the other question is, could you quickly, I think
I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom two-thirds of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I won the international moot court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
If I could say one thing.
One glaring problem with that statement, according to the Associated Press, is that Biden released his school records, which showed that he had only graduated 76th in a law school class of 85. The law school transcript also showed that he made little progress in class standing through the 3-year course. Biden also then admitted to committing plagiarism in law school and even had to retake a course over it. Furthermore, records showed he did not have a full scholarship, but rather $800 of the $1,620. Newsweek magazine then added that Biden didn't mention this so-called moot court competition on his resume and did not win the political science award at the University of Delaware. Okay, now this is the best part. In response to all this, Biden stated that, quote, "It's so easy to make things look like there's something sinister about them. I guess every single word I've said is going to be dissected now." Yeah, dude, you're running for president. He continued, "I exaggerate when I'm angry, but I've never gone around telling people things that aren't true about me." What do you mean? Yeah, you do. You just told people a whole paragraph of things that aren't true about you. And of course, shortly after what I would call a pretty huge red flag, he was forced to drop out of the 1988 race.
I do it with incredible reluctance, and it makes me angry. I'm angry with myself for having been put myself in the position of having to make this choice. And I am no less frustrated with the environment of presidential politics that makes it so difficult to let the American people measure the whole Joe Biden and not just misstatements that I have made. But folks, be that as it may, I've concluded that I will stop being a candidate for President of the United States.
But these things aren't the real reason people don't think Joe would be a good president. It isn't the billions in foreign bribe money, or the creation of the police state, or the 1984-style surveillance statutes he so eagerly tries to take credit for, and it's not the constant lying or the clear anger issues. Nope. It's the Russians.
You hear the news. Once again, Putin and the Russians are trying to engage in our election to decide who the president's going to be. And this time I'm the object of their attention. Because Putin knows if I am president of the United States, his days of tyranny and trying to intimidate the United States and those in Eastern Europe are over. I'm going to stand up to him. He's a bully, just like the president. And I know he doesn't want me to be president, but to tell you what, when I'm president, things are going to change. Mr. Putin, the American people decide their elections, not you.
Oh man, change the record. What is this, the 1950s? Children, don't forget to pay attention in school and trust your government, because any second now, the Russians could drop the atomic bomb. Always remember to duck and cover and never fall prey to Russian malarkey. It's like they ran out of ideas and just went into default mode. I mean, when did the wall come down? 89? So 30 years? All right, I guess that's enough time to recycle your fear-based control programming. But it's the same thing as always in Washington. The ones who commit the crimes get off scot-free, and the ones who ask questions pay for them. The swamp rewards sleazy behavior like this. Therefore, it attracts these sorts of slimy people.
Joe Biden facing a bit of controversy tonight. Late today, former Democratic candidate for lieutenant governor of Nevada coming forward to say that she had a bit of an uncomfortable encounter with the then vice president back in 2014. Lucy Flores writes in New York Magazine, quote, "I felt him get closer to me from behind. He leaned further in and inhaled my hair. I was mortified," she writes. "He proceeded to plant a big, slow kiss on the back of my head."
This morning, the New York Post is reporting that Hunter has been separated from his wife, Kathleen, with whom he has 3 children, and is now in a romantic relationship with Hallie Biden, his sister-in-law.
Good morning, John. Amy Lapos is the former congressional staffer who says she met Biden at a Democratic Party fundraiser in Greenwich, Connecticut in 2009. Last night, she described to CBS News what she says happened towards the end of that evening.
We took some pictures, and then he came over and he put his hands around my head and pulled me in. And as he was doing that, I was like, okay, he's gonna kiss me. And I was like, am I okay with this? I don't know, am I okay with this? What is he doing? And then our noses touched. He rubbed noses.
Lapo says she's partly speaking out in support of Lucy Flores, the former Nevada assemblywoman who's also accused Biden of inappropriate behavior.
Get in next to me. Okay? We're one of the big guys.
All right, Reggie, next to me.
You don't have to give me the commences. Confidence. I've got a lot of thanks to give.
And let's be real, no one needed these women to tell us what a predator this guy is. I mean, if you could skeeve out Hillary Clinton, that's pretty bad. I'm just saying. But his audience doesn't seem to even care.
Why did you molest those girls? It's all on YouTube. Yeah. You know you did it. Everybody's seen it. Get out of here.
And when it comes to his other notorious rap, they and Biden seem to think it's all a big joke.
Edger, well, I don't want you to have to stand all alone, but it's up to you. By the way, he gave me permission to touch him. All right?
So I'll leave you all here with this montage, and you can decide. Where we go one, we go all.
I'll bet you're as bright as you're good looking, I tell you. You have a beautiful sister, so keep the boys away from your sister. That's the job. Keep going, you're standing right next to me. Here, you two come here.
Here we go.
You got it? Okay.
And the people in the back, if you could spread out a little bit, like that gentleman.
I like kids better than people.
Yeah.
I like kids better than people. You know, you guys, you got what are you, a senior?
A junior.
Like a junior. Fathers are hard to raise. Can I have a picture with just the kids? Can I have one with just alone? How are you, baby? How old are you? Go in the back. Oh, you are old. Hey, baby, how are you? How old are you? 17? Hey, baby, how are you?
This is Nikki.
What's your Nikki? How old are you? Do you remember what I told you? No, not smile. Remember, no dates till you're 30 years old. Can you guys stand next to me? All right. Make me look good. Domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which you're about to enter to help you God. Any way you want. Hey, are you bored yet? Isn't that kind of boring?
You say good.
Isn't it kind of boring? She said, this is boring stuff, Mom. See you, beautiful child.
All right,
just
guys.
remember, no dates or boys till you're 30 years old.
I like that. That's exactly right.
30 years old.
Time
That's
to wrap it up, Jacob.
I got 4 granddaughters. Beautiful granddaughters like you guys. And guess what? The granddaughters are better than daughters. You know why? About age 12. This beautiful butterfly bed tucking in. And you're going to walk in and that's when your dad will put a snake in the bed. And you're going to say, Dad, drop me the pool. Dad, don't kiss me. That's your granddaughters. I got my 17-year-old granddaughter, beautiful, beautiful girl. And so we were Christmas shopping, and we were walking through the mall. She said, "Pop, can we hold hands?" Can you imagine? Can you imagine saying that to your father, no matter how much you love her?
You're right.
So I got 4 of them.
You want to do one more family shot?
Oh,
Sure.
okay, good.
Let me get one more family shot.
And the second time, first time my kids were this age, I ran the second time. Do you know what my dad used to say? His granddaughters have one important job: take care of the pop. That's the most important one. Mom and Dad walked in this discussion. Don't tell me what you have to do.
Great. I got some more family people. Come on in. You got a crash. Sure. Okay. Family people. Come on in. You got a crash. Sure. Okay.
Grandpa's one of the good guys.
That's nice of you to say.
No, I'm not saying. He knows I mean. Come on, baby. Make me look better, okay? There we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand, and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down, so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
When I marched in the Civil Rights Movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes. During the 60s, I was, in fact, very concerned about the Civil Rights Movement. I was not an activist. I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else.